Hi, welcome to this video in which we're going to see a new grammar lesson that corresponds to the book Skillful 3, Listening and Speaking, Unit number 10, page 183. Just in case, if you want to have access to the information provided in this file, click on the link of this Google Doc that is available in the description of this video. So let's get started. Today, the grammar lesson that we're going to see is future perfect progressive. Now, the question is, when do we use the future perfect progressive? Well, basically, we use it to show that something will continue up until a particular event or time in the future. So, in order to understand much better this, we're going to see some examples. Let's start with example number one. Here says, she will have been living in Ireland for 10 years at that point. In the case of number two, we will have been studying at this glorious university for 3 years. In the case of number three says, when our parents get married, I will have been singing professionally for over a year. And finally, here in number four says, by our 40th wedding anniversary, this plant will have been growing for 35 years. If we pay particular attention to the four sentences, there is a pattern in each one. For example, in number one, we have the subject she, then we have will, have, been, and finally the verb in the ing form, like in this case, living. The same happens in number two. The subject is we, then we have will, have, been, again, the verb in the ing form, studying. In number three, the same situation. The subject is I, we have will, have, been, and the verb in the ing form, singing. And finally, in exercise number four, or example number four, we have this plant, which is the subject, will, have, been, and the verb in the ing form, growing. So, since there is this pattern, we can come up with this general formula. The general formula will be this one: subject plus will plus have plus been and the verb in the ing form. Now, there is something that we have to take into account. There are two main reasons to use the future perfect progressive. The first one, to describe the duration of an action up to a specific point in the future. Here I have two examples. Let's see. The first one, by the time we finish the project, I will have been working on it for 3 years. So in this case, we are describing the duration of an action up to a specific time in the future. Let's see example number two. By our 40th wedding anniversary, this plant will have been growing for 35 years. Again, in this example, we're describing the duration of an action up to a specific point in the future. Let's see the other case. Here we have another reason we use the future perfect progressive. It says, to explain that a future situation will be the result of an earlier process. Example number one. I'll be tired when I get back to the city because I will have been traveling for 10 hours. In this case, there is a result for an earlier process. Like the same in example number two, which says, we will be completely successful when we come back to our country because we will have been doing it for 10 years. Okay. In order to understand much better this, we are going to see something important. And what is the difference between the future perfect and the future perfect progressive? Okay. Basically, we have here the future perfect. As you can see here in this timeline, we have I will finish dinner 6 p.m. Then I have another action in the future. She will call me 8 p.m. I have two actions in the future, two future actions. So this will be my sentence using the future perfect. I will have finished. I will have finished dinner by the time she calls me tonight. Okay, so when do I use the future perfect? It's very simple. Pay attention, please. The first future action, we use future perfect. I will have finished dinner. And the second future action, we use simple present. She calls me. So that means that I use the future perfect for the first future action. And the simple present, I use for the second future action. In the future perfect, the first future action will finish before the second future action. So I will have finished dinner by the time she calls me tonight. That means that I will finish my dinner before she calls me. The future action will finish before the second one or the last one, which in this case is she will call me. In this case, I use the future perfect. What about the future perfect progressive? Again, here we have a timeline, as you can see. The first action says 6 p.m. I will study for 2 hours. And then I have another second future action. 8 p.m. she will call me. So this will be my sentence using the future perfect progressive. I will have been studying. I will have been studying for 2 hours by the time she calls me tonight. What does this mean? It means that the first future action goes in the future perfect. I will have been studying. And the second goes in the simple present. She calls me. So in this case, when do we use the future perfect progressive? When the first action will continue until the second future action. In this case, the first action does not finish. It just continues until the second future action. As you can see, these dots that you see here indicate that the first action is in progress. It continues until the second future action. All right. In order to understand much better this, we're going to do some examples, some exercises actually. So let's read the instructions before we start working on them. Here says exercises, instructions. Choose the best tense to complete the sentences. In this case, we will have to choose between future perfect and future perfect progressive. Let's start with number one. So number one says, before we arrive, they will have set up. In this case, we have future perfect. And here we have, they will have been setting up the auditorium. We have future perfect progressive. Okay. Now I'm gonna give you 20 minutes, sorry, 20 seconds, 20 seconds to analyze the statement and choose the appropriate answer. Go ahead, please. All right. Time is up. So let's analyze the answer. In the case of number one, for example, we have to use future perfect. They will have set up. Why? Because here says before we arrive. That means that the people will have set up everything in the auditorium before we arrive. That means that the first future action will will be finished before we arrive. Now we're going to continue with example number 2. Please read the sentence and choose the appropriate answer. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. Analyze it, please. Go ahead. All right, time is up. Let's see the answer. Well, in this case in particular, we have to use future perfect progressive. Here says, he will have been driving for an hour by the time he gets home. That means that by the time he gets home, the action will, the first future action will continue until until he gets home, until the second action, the second future action. That's why in this case I need to use he will have been driving. Okay, the same procedure. Let's continue with number 3. 20 seconds. Analyze the statement and choose the correct answer. All right, time is up. So let's check the correct answer. In this case says, in December, I will have been working here for 2 years. Okay, what does this mean? It means that in this case, for example, I need to use future perfect progressive because here says I will have been working here for 2 years in December, until December, until the second action, which would be December. I will have been working here in this place for 2 years. So the action continues until the second future action. We're going to continue with number 4, the same procedure. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. Analyze the statement very carefully and choose the correct answer, please. All right, time is up. So let's analyze number 4. Let's see. Here says, by the end of the day, he will have carried 90 bags of potatoes on his back. Okay, that means that by the end of the day, the second future action is the end of the day. He will have carried 90 bags of potatoes on his back. So that the first action is done, will be completed, will be finished. In this case, that's why I need to use future perfect. So I have to use will plus have plus the verb in the past participle. Let's continue with number 5. The same procedure. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. Read the statement very carefully and choose the correct answer, please. Go ahead. All right, time is up. Let's check the answer in the case of number five. Well, here we have to use a future perfect progressive. Here says, in November, we will have been living in Spain for 11 years. That means that in November, the second action, the first future action continues until November. It did not finish. Why? Because the people or we will be continue living in Spain for 11 years and the action will continue. The action did not finish. Let's continue with number five. Sorry, number six, please. The same procedure, 20 seconds, read it very carefully and choose the appropriate answer. Go ahead, please. All right, time is up. Let's analyze number six. Well, in this case in particular, I have to use future perfect. So I would say, I will have finished my homework by the time you call me tonight. That means that the first future action, which is doing the finishing the homework, will be done, will be completed by the time you call me tonight. Okay, we continue with number seven, the same procedure, 20 seconds. Read the sentence very carefully and choose the appropriate answer, please. All right, time is up. Let's analyze number seven. Let's see what the correct answer is. In this case says, they will have been waiting for me for ages by the time my plane lands. This means that the people that are at the airport waiting uh, will the action will not be done, will not be completed. Actually, the action will continue until my plane lands the airport. So they will have been waiting me for ages, for a long time by the time my plane lands. So in this case, we use a future perfect progressive. We continue with number eight, the same procedure, 20 seconds. Analyze the sentence and choose the appropriate answer, please. All right, let's check the answer. In the case of number eight says, when he quits his job next week, he will have been working there for 2 years. Okay, that means that the second future action is when he quits his job. That means next week. The first future action is he will have been working. That means that until he quits, he will have been working there for 2 years. So the second future action continues. Okay, now we are going to do other exercises. Let's see the instructions. Here says complete the sentences using the future perfect progressive form of the verb in parentheses. Well, in this case, the only thing that we have to do is we have to apply the general formula that I have shared with you before. So here we have number one, in parentheses, says you wait for over 2 hours when the train finally arrives. So in this case, this will be the correct answer. Let's see. I need to use a future perfect progressive. So in this case, my answer would be something like this. You, the subject, will have been and the verb in the ing form, waiting for over 2 hours when the train finally arrives. This will be the example for this type of exercise that we have to do. And we're going to continue with number two. There you are, number two. So I'm going to give you 20 seconds so you think about what the answer can be for this second exercise. Go ahead, please. Okay, time is over. Now I'm going to share with you the correct answer. Well, in this case, I will share with you the correct form of the verb. So in this case, the answer will be this one. They will be tired when they get home because they will have been working late. Okay, this will be, so we have the subject they plus will plus have plus been and plus the verb in the ing form, in this case, working. Now we continue with exercise number 3. Take a look at it, okay, and prepare your answer, please. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. Go ahead, please. All right, time is up. Let's see what the answer is. So here we have, they will win the contest because they will have been practicing for months. So in this case, as the instruction said, we have to use subject, they, will, plus have, plus been, plus the verb in the ing. So in this case, we have practicing. Well, this will be everything that corresponds to future perfect progressive. Now, I think, and I'm almost pretty sure that now you're ready to work on page 183, grammar section, and do exercises 1 and 2. Thank you so much for your attention.